Good afternoon. We'll continue with what we stopped in the last class. I think in the last class we just started with C sharp and we started with the hello world. I think we did this much in the last class. Okay, let me just quickly revise. I think it's been a week, I think you would have forgotten almost all the keywords. So let's just recap whatever we had studied in the last class. So you see here, there are some keywords used there. I would just ask you to just go through this once again to get the keywords back. I don't want you to remember the program as because the program is automatically generated. I just want you to remember the keywords, what we have used. The first two, what you see, using and namespace, they go together normally. Namespace is like a package. Okay, it just puts reasonable groupings of classes. And in order to import a particular namespace inside a particular uh, C sharp file, we would use the keyword called using. Okay, and please note, just like how Java used to use the word import, we are using the word using, and in Java we just need to mention the package name on top. That's enough. But here we engulf the entire code inside that namespace. So namespace is holding the class in turn holds everything else. Now, if you remember the rules in Java, it's somewhat like this. Everything should be inside a class because it's an object-oriented programming. Here also it's the same rule. What about namespace then? Namespace is an optional thing. Okay, package is not compulsory in Java, if you notice that. We use package only when we have a lot of things to be clubbed and called as one. Then we use package. We do not use package for just hello world. Okay, but here the hello world already is inside a package because we create a project, and in that project we have created it. So does it mean that that namespace is compulsory? No, it's not compulsory at all. It's just class is compulsory. Namespace is a good practice. That's it. The first keyword is namespace. The second keyword, what you see there along with namespace, is using, and the next keyword is class, which you are very familiar with, and then the main method. Okay, there is a small difference in the main method. In Java, we used to write it in small m, main. Here it is capital M. One small difference. Okay, and then in Java, you can write that string arguments bracket anywhere you want. Like for example, string and then args of open and close bracket. That's also fine. But you need to write capital S. That's compulsory there. Here it is not compulsory for you to use it as capital S. Even small s is fine. But this bracket, it makes a difference for you. In Java, you can put it here or here. It doesn't matter. But here, this is the way in which you're supposed to write it. Okay, and in just like Java, it's not compulsory to mention public. Okay, unless public is widely accepted, but public is not compulsory. Similarly, same thing here. If you do not mention something, it automatically assumes internal. That's it. Now the next word, I think I'll just quickly go through whatever we had seen in the last class. I'm just going to skip that. These slides we'll skip. We'll just start with what we're supposed to see in this class. Okay, so I guess class also you're familiar with, and method we had seen that also, the public static void main. I hope you know for each and every word what is the meaning and why we are using it. And in hello world we had wrote all these things. Just wanted to remember this. Now in the last class you had answered me this. You said that what is system, what is console, and what is write line. Okay, so as you see the syntax itself, you should just remember like how we had learned object-oriented programming. There are three things we have used here. Okay, one is a namespace, another one is a class, the other one is a method. Now if you remember something like this, okay, it's not it's just a guideline, guys. It's just like all class names would normally look like a noun in English. Okay, what is a noun? It's a name of a place, person, or a thing. Okay, that's a noun. What about a method? Method normally would indicate a verb, action. Okay, a verb. And what about properties? They are adjectives. They just describe some things. They describe the properties of something. Okay, that same idea. Okay, so it's basically keep that English. Right line. Okay, please note that word, right line. It's an action. You're telling something. Okay, that's a method. Console. It's not an action. It is describing a person, place, or a thing. It's a thing here. Okay, console. And system is a package name. So, or namespace name. So you can go on like that. Remember this while you name, and just like, see, you would have learned this as a best practice in Python. Okay, because it is in Python, there it's a design concept. All variable names must be what do you call, meaningful. Okay, so it is not recommended for you to have something like ABC or A1, A2, A3. It's not recommended. Okay, you can keep it. System will still understand it. For our understanding, we will never use words which are not, which will not be relevant to others. Okay, so when somebody reads that code, everybody should be able to understand what it is doing. That is how our names should be there, so that we can make sense when somebody else reads our code. Okay. So here I've just explained that it is writeLine is a static method of the console class, which is located in the namespace called system. We saw that in the last class. Now, I think I put a few words about the syntax, how it should be. Okay, I cannot stress on the word more about the word case sensitive. Okay, I think last semester also we had the same issue, and while we took regular Java, the advanced Java part also we had the same issue. That case sensitivity is something we don't understand much. The reason is because both look the same for you, but for the system it does not look the same. It is totally different. Okay, for you it might be is this one word difference, but then for the system it's entirely different. Okay, be very careful about that. Okay, so remaining everything is just general things about any programming language except Python, of course. Okay, and let's say I think I stopped with this. How do I compile and run a Java program, and how do you compile and run a C# program? I think we saw this and we saw Hello World in the last class. Today, we are going to start with one of the simple concept, and then we'll build up to much more simpler ones, because your syllabus demands that I take C# from the scratch. Okay, so even though those would look very simple and what do you call primitive to you, but still let's go through that. Today's class we'll just take two concepts. One is I'm going to talk about command line arguments. Number two, data types. Okay, the types of data. That's all we are going to cover in today's class. So let me just quickly go through. So first thing, command line arguments. I hope most of you would have come across this. What do you think is a command line argument? Can you please put in the chat box? What do you understand about a command line argument? What is a command line argument? Whatever you know, guys, just put it forward. No one? Arguments given during runtime. Good. Runtime giving arguments. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you the Hello World code once again. Okay. I want you to tell me where is the command line argument. Here. In this program, the one which you have written, do you have command line arguments? In main, yes, it is there. String arguments. Okay. So that args is a short form of arguments. I have a simple question. Maybe it's a silly one. Can I change that word args and put whatever I want? Like say, for example, I want to put MCA there. Is it possible? Yes, because it's a variable name. All right. Can I change that string arguments to int arguments? No. Okay. Great. Good. So you understand what it is. Now, have you ever used it before? Have you used this command line argument before anywhere? It's a simple yes or no, guys. In core Java, yes. Okay. Fine. Have you? You have. So which means you have worked on a program which takes command line arguments. Perfect. Okay. Do you remember what program you did so that I can have some idea? What program did you do to explain or understand command line arguments? Anyone? You don't remember? Simple name printing. Okay. So let me just assume that you had written a program in which you are taking command line arguments. So taking a name. Okay. That was the simplest one you have done. Okay, cool. So imagine that the program name is hello, and you would like to run that with command line argument taking a simple name. So when you run, you'll compile it as java c space file name hello.java. All right. And when you run it, how will you run it? Imagine the program is hello. How would you run with the printing your name? Java space hello, correct? Space your name. Sorry. Okay. So I hope this is clear. Yes, correct. That's it. So Java is the execution part, and the hello is the program, the class file you're calling, and you're passing some argument to that. That's it. So when you run it in the program, how can I get Savio or Hansel into my program? Why? How would I call it? Okay. So you remember that it is string array of arguments. So loop through the args. Okay. And if I'm very sure that you're passing only one word, one name, I'll just say args of zero, isn't it? Args of zero, which means yeah, correct. String of zero. No, string is a data type. The variable name here is args. So it's args of zero. So you'll be calling that uh, variable name. Yes. So variable name is args and you'll be calling args of zero. Simple. Now, let's today revise whatever we had seen in that. Okay, but little bit more in depth of that, where we are using it in real world. Okay, that I want you to understand, not just what is command line arguments. Okay, in order to make our program to behave in a particular way, depending on the input provided at the time of execution, we use command line arguments. Okay, now mostly in college or in programming, you would have only seen this as part of like taking a name or adding two numbers or something like that. But without your knowledge, you are using it every day in your computers. Okay, I'll take a simple example. I'll show that and then I'll come back. So let me just finish the slide and then I'll go to the explanation of how it works and how we are using it in our day-to-day lives. So let's say there are parameters. Okay, again, I'm passing a keyword here. They are parameters, which means there's a name value pair supplied to the main method at the time of invoking it for execution. Okay, no difference when it comes to C#. What program you told, I've just taken that as the same example here. Okay, this is a program which takes name as an argument. So how would I run this program? Imagine this program's name is hello, just like how you told. I'll just ignore the word Java in front of it. I'll just run, how do I compile this program? CSC, C# compiler, hello.cs. And then how to run it? Hello. If I just call hello, it'll just print welcome. It will not say args of, because args of zero is null. So what if I passed a value? So I'll just say hello space Savio or hello space Hansel. When I run this program, without even me giving an input during the runtime, as soon as it gets executed, I'll already see that welcome Savio or welcome Hansel. Okay, this is the idea. Now, this idea is good for programming, but where are we actually using it? Let's see that and then come back to this slide. Just give me a minute. I hope you can see my screen. So let's start. Okay, now just see that we have command line arguments in programming we had seen. So before going into the program part of it, I would want to show you where we are actually using it. Now, every day we use it. I'll just give you a simple example. Imagine that I have, just think about it. I have a MP3 file in my system. Okay, a song probably. Okay, I just have a song in my desktop. I'll just let me open it. So I'll just downloads, I think music. Okay, there is a song here. Okay, there's an MP3 file. Now, just tell me in how many ways can I open it? I just want to listen to that song. What are the ways in which I can listen to that song? Click to open. Okay. Double click. Okay. It's a little bit more technical. Double click to open. Yes, fine. I'll double click on it and I open it. Enter. Okay. Right click, open. Wow. Okay. Use media player. Okay. Drag and drop. Wow. Okay. VLC player. Wow. Thank you, Shivraj. Now, the meaning or the idea behind why I asked that is what you told is right. I can double click on that MP3 file and run it. It'll start playing. Okay. So let me just double click on it. Okay. It's just opening that song and the music has started. Okay. So let me just stop it now. Now, one thing what I need to do is open with any player. Any player is the same idea, guys. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter whether it's VLC or media player or whatever you use in your system. Okay. Now, I'm going to just use VLC as an example. Okay. Because I've kept that as the default. Now, there is another way of opening that same file. Okay. I'll tell you the longer way. I first open VLC. Okay. Please note, I'm telling the second way. I've opened VLC media player. Now I'm going to file. Okay. Open. And I'm going to search for that same audio. I click on it and I open it. It's playing. Okay. Now, I've showed you two ways of opening this MP3 file. What is the difference? I hope you understood. Okay, I opened that same MP3 file which is there on my desktop in two ways. One, I double clicked on it as you told. When I double clicked on it, VLC player opened with that particular MP3 file automatically loaded. The second one, I opened VLC player first and then I gave this MP3 file as an input later. I hope you can get the flow here, right? So basically, I just open VLC first as a simple application, and then I am I'm giving an input to VLC to open this particular MP3 file. All right, so now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to explain how that works in command prompt, like how you have been working. So I'm going to open program files, and that I'll open VLC's location. Okay, I hope you can see the screen here, vlc.exe. All right, this is the file. I've put an mp3 file also there. Okay, so you have two things here. Now let me just open command prompt in that location. Okay, I hope you can see the command prompt. I'll just keep it like this. So here, now I have vlc.exe. It's an exe file which has been already added there. Let me just call it. I can just call it by vlc. I need not put .exe. I hope you understand why, right? I guess you can see the screen. All right, so there is a vlc.exe here, but I need not, I mean, if you want to open it, I can just double click on it, but let me open it through command prompt to just explain how it works. So instead of putting exe, I'll just call vlc. I just need to call vlc because exe is the by default uh, extension of Windows. So you see VLC player opens up. I hope you can see this. Okay, the media player or the application called VLC opened up. One. Now, what I'm going to do right now next is I am going to type VLC, but this time with a command line argument. What is the command line argument? The file name which I had put there, the MP3 file name which I have put there. So now, is that the way we execute a command line argument? Correct? VLC, this is the your file name, okay, and space, need to pass a parameter. Okay, I'm just going to pass that parameter as this what I'm right now passing is a command line argument. I'm going to press enter and you see what happens. I hope you can get it. A VLC player opened with that file as a input. Okay, this is command line argument. Now it doesn't matter which software you use. For example, if you're opening a document file, if you're opening a notepad plus plus file, okay, if you're opening a video, an audio, whatever you're opening by double clicking on a particular file. For example, when you install operating system for the first time, you might not have Microsoft Office. Okay, so if you have a document file, you'll not be able to open it because there is no application which will take that as an input. So it'll say open with a particular program. So you'll choose a program where we are setting the path for that particular type of applications and that application opens it. I hope now you've got a clear idea of what is a command line argument and why is it compulsory for all Java and C# applications to take a command line argument, because not all the time people open the application and then give an input. Okay, let's take any application, even Word document or PPT. Okay, so if you are creating a PPT, you will open PowerPoint first and then you'll create a new PowerPoint and use it. But if I'm passing a PPT to you, you will not open PowerPoint first and then open my PPT. You'll just double click on it if you have PowerPoint installed. So which means command line arguments are saving you a lot of time, first of all, and that is the default or the de facto standard of people who use systems today. Okay, this is not understood by people who are not IT people. Okay, but you should understand that when you double click on something and you run, that's basically command line arguments which you are using in your everyday work. Okay, so remember that part. Now let me just skip this. The next thing is creating interactive applications. Now in Java, if I wanted to take input from the user, how would I do it? I need to use scanner or a buffered reader or something like that. But when it comes to C#, it's a little bit more simpler. Okay, it's just as easy as write line. The reverse is read line. I think we did a program in the last class. If you remember that adding two numbers, I took a number from the user. Okay, so read line method. Now it is used to receive an input from the user while the program is executing. I didn't take this slide, but I directly went to the adding two numbers program, but now I'm just going through it. Okay, this is something which you need to remember even in web technologies as well as in any technology you come across, you will see the same thing. By default, whatever the user enters or user is giving to you will be string. Converting, formatting, all these things are with you, the programmer. not with the user. The user doesn't know what is data types. Okay, he only knows that I have to give some input. So whatever input I give will be considered by default as string, which can be later converted. Okay, so in C Sharp, in Java, you would have done it in integer.parsent way. In Java, you have two keywords here, convert and parse. I'll show you both just to understand how they are. This is a simple example. I think you can see the code. Okay, taken two double values instead of just using int all the time. We'll just give different types of data. Console.writeLine, enter a number, which means that will be printed on the screen. And the next line, the cursor will be blinking for you to enter a number. Now you please note there are two things I've written. A is equal to double dot parse or convert dot two double. Both are same. Only one difference is there, that the return type. If it cannot parse, it will return null and all those things. That's not important for us. I just want you to note that both are same. Okay, both are equivalent. For those people who are coming from Java, will find the first one easy. The double dot parse. Okay, that would be easier for you, those who have coming from Java point of view, because you have written integer.parsent before. Okay, and here in Java's, I mean in C Sharp's way, you can write convert as a class. It's a class which is available, which will convert anything to anything. So convert is a class dot to what? Okay, so you'll have a lot of suggestions. You can check that in the Visual Studio later when we do. Okay, just think that convert dot to double whatever the user has entered. Console dot readline is whatever the user has entered, and I've just multiplied them both, and the square of a is something like that we have printed. That's it. Okay, so this is how you take input from the user, not like complicated scanner and get next and all those things are not there. It's just as simple as taking a read line from the user. Okay, that we are done. Next, the last part of today's session is data types. Okay, this is very important, guys. This is something which has been taught to you all the time, but we are just going to see a little bit more in depth about C Sharp in this case. Okay, so what are data types? I hope you already know what are data types. Just type of data, a simple definition. Okay, every variable in C Sharp is associated with a data type. Okay, if you take Python, JavaScript, PHP, there are no standard or defined. You need not define a data type. System understands and it automatically processes it. Okay, that also makes, or it factors to the way it is a little bit slower. But when it comes to Java, it is not dynamically done. It is statically done. You tell what variable you are initializing. You tell what variable it is processed into, etc. Okay, they specify the size and the type of values that can be stored. I'll be talking about it. Okay, this is what I want you to focus on. Okay, this is a very important question for the theory part also. How do you divide data types in C Sharp? Okay, just like any language, but this is a little bit more clearer in C Sharp. They are divided into two categories. You have already come across those two categories: value type, reference type. Okay, I want you to remember the keyword. There are two types of data types in C Sharp. One is value type, the other one is reference type. Now, how do you differentiate? How do you find out if I give you, let's say, for example, if I say integer, if I say string, how do you define whether they are value type or reference type? Simple. There are two characteristics. They differ in two characteristics. The number one character is that where they are stored in memory. I'll talk about it, but then remember these two. This is very important, guys. I want you to remember these two things. How do you differentiate between a value type and a reference type? Number one, where they are stored in memory. Number two, how they will behave in the context of an assignment. Okay, so how will you behave in the context of an assignment, and where you are stored differentiates you. That's the idea of data types. So let me just get into the diagram so that it will be a little bit more clear. I just want you to remember this. Okay, it's not that difficult, guys. It's very simple. You have already come across all these things. There are two types of data types in C Sharp. One is value type. The other one is reference type. Okay, so I hope you can see that this is value type and this is reference type. And in value type, you have two types: predefined, user defined. In reference type also, you have predefined, user defined. So now, the reason why I told all these things is you should see that there are just examples given at the bottom of each. Now, value type. In value type, predefined type, integers, booleans, characters, real numbers, etc. All these are predefined value types. But if you create a structure or an enumeration, that is a user defined value type. Okay, what about objects which I create? What about string which we use? Okay, those are all predefined reference type. And classes, arrays, delegates, interfaces, whatever we create here, they all are reference types, user defined reference types. Okay, so these are data types in C Sharp. Please do remember this is very, very important for theory as well as for your practicals. Okay, so let's go into a little bit more in depth of these things, um, starting with value type. Okay, what are value types? They have fixed length. They are stored on the stack. And when a value is assigned to another variable, the value is actually copied. I just wanted to highlight the ones which I've put there. Okay, number one, value types are fixed lengths, which means you cannot increase it, you cannot decrease it. If for example, if it's an integer, there is a size. Okay, you cannot change the size of integer. What you can change what is stored inside that. It is a variable data type, but then fixed length. The length is fixed. If you say int a, int b, both int a and int b will be given the same space, fixed length. Okay, and they are stored on the stack data structure. When a value of, if you say a is equal to b, the value of a is copied into b. It's actually copied. That's how they behave in the context of an assignment. Okay, please remember in the previous slide I told about two way they differ. Number one, where they are stored. Where are value types stored? Value types are stored on a stack. And how will they behave when you copy or assignment? In the context of an assignment, how will they behave? If you assign a variable to another variable, the value is actually copied. The value is actually copied. I want you to remember that part. That's why it's called value type. Now they can be of two types, user defined and predefined. User defined are a little bit complex, like structures and enumeration, not like a simple type. They are complex types which are structured and enumerations. Predefined are something which is very simple and we've been using it a lot, like numbers, integer, boolean, characters, all these things. Simple ones. Numbers like integer, float, double, decimal, etc. etc. Okay, let me just quickly go through the types which we have. Integral types or integer based types. They can hold whole numbers such as 1, 2, 3, minus 1, 3, etc. etc. Now, the size depends on the integral type we choose. Okay, this is very important, guys. There are two types of integral types. Okay, signed and unsigned. Okay, I wanted to remember this very clearly. For that, I've just put two things. How many types are there? And I've just put one table to explain everything in one shot. Okay, I just wanted to just have a glance of the signed integers. Okay, in signed integers, there are four types. Now, we have only used int. Probably you would have used long in some place, but you wouldn't have even come across these things in other language because we are very familiar with the word called int. But please note, it doesn't make a big difference when we are doing programs like simple applications. Okay, but when it's a complicated application, you need to be very careful of how many bytes you are allocating to each and every data type which you are using. Now, if you see here, imagine if you have a situation where you would like to store only the week numbers or day numbers, okay, which means the maximum value you will store is 31 and the minimum you can store is 1. Should I use an int for that? It's your choice. You can use it. It's not a big difference. But then please note it is not optimal because the size, the capacity of int is 4 bytes and it can store such a big number. And it also can carry negative numbers. But when you come to unsigned, please remember this. The word unsigned means it cannot take negative numbers. Okay, so let me take one simple example. S byte. Can you see here? S byte takes 1 byte in the memory location. Minimum value what you can store here is minus 128. Maximum you can store is 127. What about instead of using S byte, if I used byte? Okay, unsigned byte. What happens? Then minus values are not allowed. So minimum is 0, maximum is 255. Totally 256 characters, but then 0 is 1 and the maximum you can store is 255 if I put byte, which is unsigned. Okay, when I say unsigned, when you know that you are never going to use a negative value in your variable allocation, you can use unsigned ones. But if you are not sure and negative values are allowed, then you should use signed integers. Now, that's the first thing, signed or unsigned. Now, inside that, which one should I use? It depends on what is the maximum value or the minimum value you would like to store in that particular data type. Okay, so please note, if I am going to store my mobile number, what should I use? I cannot use S byte, I cannot use short, I cannot use int. Why I am saying that is, this is a 10-digit number, but it doesn't start with 9, it starts with 2. Okay, I cannot store my mobile number here, either positive or negative, doesn't matter. I cannot store my phone number here. So what can I do? I can use long at that particular time. Okay, but if I'm using int, I will not be able to store my mobile number. So I see how many numbers maximum I'll be entering, okay, and minimum I'll be entering. Based on that, I decide what type of data I need to choose. Okay, this only applies when you are doing enterprise level application. In college, probably we'll get stuck with this one thing called int. Okay, but please note that there are other things also with the same integer. Please note these are integers, which means whole numbers. You cannot put uh, decimal points here. Okay, this is integer types. I hope it is clear. So similarly, what about u short? If I put u short, it means unsigned short. It can store 2 bytes again, but minimum is 0. Maximum is 32768 plus 32767. That's the maximum value, and it goes on like this for all the other numbers also. Okay, please remember that. That's signed and unsigned integral types. Floating point, I think that everybody knows. I'm going to quickly skip that. Okay, floating point is which has precision after decimal points. Okay, so there are two types, float and double. Float is one which has 4 bytes of memory. Double stores 8 bytes of memory, but both can store the ones with floating point values. Okay, only the thing is size is different. The number of values which it can store and what it can store. Okay, that's all. That's a floating point type. Decimal type. This is if you want a high precision. Okay, after the dot, how many numbers you can have? Okay, it has 128 bit data type. Okay, it is used in monetary calculations and financial calculations. Okay, with 28 significant digits. Okay, it's you need to mention the word m after the word, otherwise it's considered as double. That's a decimal. Character and boolean, something which you have already come across. Char, which means can store one character, single character, but it assumes 2 bytes in memory. Boolean can hold true or false, which you already know. Okay, but only one difference here in C# is that in Python and all, we can Python, PHP, we can use if 1, okay, or if 0, which means 1 is true and 0 is false. We can understand like that. But in C#, we cannot use 0 as false and non-zero as true, since no conversion is possible, or the other Boolean to other types is possible. Okay, please remember that. You cannot use like how we are done in other languages. It does not allow 0 as false and non-zero as true, which means you have to exactly use the word true or false. Okay. The next one is reference type. Okay, what do you mean by reference type? Which is variable length. Please note again, there I said fixed length. Here I'm saying variable length, and they are stored on the heap. Next keyword. All right. I said there are two things which differs them. Number one, where it is stored. Value types are stored on the stack. Reference types are stored on heap. Okay, also when you assign a reference, which means the same thing in the context of an assignment, when you copy something, you do not copy the value, you only copy the reference. The actual value remains in the same memory location. I'll give you an example shortly, but just remember this. It will not copy the value, it will copy only the reference. In other words, it will copy the address, not the person itself. Okay. They too have predefined and user-defined types. Simple type or predefined has object type and string type. In the last semester, we had used this word called object. Okay, it's a data type in Java. It's the same data type here in C# also. What do you mean by an object? Okay, if you do not mention a specific type, object can store anything. An object type can store integer, it can store string, it can store characters, whatever you want, you can put it inside object type. When you take them out, you have to convert them into the type which you want, because object is a general box. You can put anything inside that. Okay. What about user defined? When you create your own class or interface or array, you are creating a user defined reference type. I hope you can follow that. It's very important, guys. Okay, so tomorrow when we begin the class, I'll have a little bit of questions with this. So I'll be giving some examples. You just need to find out whether it is a value type or reference type. Please do go through that and then come. Okay, I've just put an example here. Please understand this diagram. It's very important. Okay, let's take with the first one, value type here. Look at the code which is written here. I hope you can see there. Okay, int A is equal to 80. B is equal to A. So I've initialized a variable called A. Okay, since it's int, it is value type for sure. It is a predefined value type. Int a, I said a is equal to 80. Okay, so in other words, int a equal to 80. Simple. Next line, if you see int b, okay, it's not written in, but then you can understand int b is equal to a. What I have done here is we have copied the value of a and put it inside b. You can see the diagram here. In memory, imagine a is equal to 80. So a is the variable name. We have put the value 80, and in memory, imagine the location ID is 2051. Just imagine like this. All right, now next line what you wrote is int b is equal to a. So what you have done, you have copied the value of a and created a totally different address location, and you stored that value, which means the value itself has been copied. Address is different. Address is two different things for two different variables. Okay, it just creates a copy of a in the memory location with a variable name called b. This is value type. Okay, what about reference type? Look at this example here. Employee space A is equal to new employee, which means you're creating a new object. Objects are the classes what you create. Classes and objects all belong to reference type. So I'll just say employee A is equal to new employee. A dot age is equal to 26, which means now the value of A in value of age in object A is 26. All right, next line, if you see, please notice the next line, employee space B, which means you're creating or initializing a new object called B, but instead of creating a new instance of that, you are saying equal to A. What do you mean by that? Which means you are just creating a new variable which will point to the same memory location as A. Now next line, if you see, b dot age is equal to 30. What do you mean by that? You have changed the age's value, which means this particular age's value through b's reference. B is also pointed to the same location. So right now, what is the value in that particular place is 30. Right now, if I print the value of A or the value of B, it will still show 30 only. Because you didn't copy the value, you copied the reference location. The location is same, only you have given two different references. A is referring to the same location. B is also now referring to the same location. This is the big difference between a value type and a reference type. I hope this is clear. Okay, so just a diagram to explain what is stack and what is a heap. Stack is a very structured data structure. You would have come across that. Okay, guys, if you have not revised data structure, please do revise data structure, not just for this subject, for your interview purposes also. All right, so this is a stack. It's a structured way. It stores value. It stores reference of in the memory where they are stored, but it gives more focus on the value. But when it comes to the heap, okay, it's kept with respect to pointers, and it contains objects, arrays, classes, etc., not in an organized fashion, but rather it is stored in such a way that if it's like heaped on data, you can pull based on the reference only. Okay, so you can see that reference has been pulled here. So this is stack and heap. Now, I think declaration of variables, everybody knows, so I'm not going to explain much. Declaring requires variables to be declared like with the data type. Okay, in Python, we need not do that. In PHP, we need not do that. But in C#, Java, it is compulsory for you to declare a variable before using that variable. In VB, it is not compulsory. You can disable a setting, and VB also you can use a variable without declaring it. But C# and Java, they do not. They are very strict in that kind of. So it must be declared before you use. I hope you know how to declare a variable. Same way as Java, just data type. Then you can give variable names in one or many. It's your wish. Okay, and how do you initialize them? I think you know the difference between initializing and then instantiating, just like how we had objects. But here, variables will not be instantialized because it is a value type here. Okay, the value types are normally allowed to be done in 2 lines or in 1 line. It depends on the developer who chooses it to be. Okay, the last part before we do one more program is default values. Okay, what are the default values of all integer types? It is just 0. Okay, now the remaining part is your wish if you want to take, but Boolean is by default false. All other reference type, I wanted to be very careful about this because I'll be asking that again and again in programs. All reference type by default value is null. Okay, now imagine if I create employee space A semicolon. Okay, what does it just means that I've created an object of employee class called A. Now, what is the value of A after that semicolon? A is null. Okay, please note all reference types by default value, unless you assign something, is always null. All right, remaining default values I have put there. I think today's class we'll wind up with one small concept which is very, very important for your theory also: boxing and unboxing. Okay, it's simple. You have understood two types now: value type, reference type. If I put one inside another and if I remove one from other, the concept is boxing and unboxing. Let's go a little bit more technical. All right, so in object oriented programming, methods are invoked using objects. Not only methods, all these things which we have come across in object oriented programming can be only called after you create an object. You cannot directly call it from a class unless it is mentioned static or something. Since value types such as int and long are not objects, we cannot use them to call methods. Okay, which means they are not objects, they are just variables. C Sharp allows you to call that through a technique called boxing. Okay, we'll be using that in programming. I just want you to remember the keyword what I'm using. This keyword is something specific to C Sharp only, but it is the concept is available everywhere. The word is a little bit unique to C Sharp: boxing and unboxing. Okay, so what do you mean by boxing? Conversion of a value type on the stack to an object type on the heap is called boxing. Okay, reverse of that, converting which is available inside object back to a value type is called unboxing. Please note this is not something new. We have already done that in Java. I'll be repeating that once again in C Sharp, but we'll just see how it works in C Sharp. It's the same thing what we had done in the last semester. Okay. I'll just go to that particular part. Any type can be assigned to an object without an explicit conversion. That's very important. Without even converting, you can just put anything inside a box. Okay, box is nothing but object. Okay, just like a box can hold anything inside it. Okay, you can hold any data type inside an object. That's the idea. I'll just give an example. Just look at this. Int m is equal to 10. This is a value type. The next line what you see is reference type, object. Okay, I'm creating an object of the object type, and then you said is equal to m. What we have done, we have created a box to hold the value of m. Now, what about m and om? Both are not the same. M is a value type, om is a reference type. Next line, I've changed the m's value to 20. Do you think it will affect the one which is an object? No, because it's inside an object. Okay, so you cannot access just like that. So this is the second line what you see is called boxing in simple terms. I've just put an example to explain what is boxing. Here you have converted a value type which was on the stack into an object type which is on the heap. This concept is called as boxing. Now, m and om exist, but the value of om is right now on the heap. That's what I just told. What about unboxing? How would I take the value out of that object which we just created? It is the process of converting the object type back to value type. That's unboxing. Okay, so for example, same thing. The second line is boxed. Now, how will I take that value out of object? Right now, if I just call OM as an integer data type, it will not work because you cannot explicitly convert integer or an object into an integer. So the next line is somewhat familiar to you already. You would have used this a lot of times from C programming. It's called typecasting for you. But here it is called unboxing because what you see on the other side is an object. That object is now unboxed back to an integer by just typecasting it. That is unboxing. Okay, this is the word. Okay, words don't make a big difference unless you know what it means. Boxing is the process of converting a value type on the stack to the object type on the heap. The reverse of that, taking the object type back to the value type, is called unboxing. Okay, I think this is enough for today. So I hope it is clear to you. With this, we will stop for today. If you have any questions, please do ask.